Time.
Naval Observatory.
Call this Village of Cooperstown Board of Trustees meeting October 24th to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there any public comment from anyone? Yes. Yeah, that's just a, if you speak from there, we'll hear you well. And just say your name, your address, etc.
Tony Gentile, 5 Leatherstocking Street. I want to bring to your attention that at the last HPARB meeting, that board made a decision that I believe was in direct conflict with the Historic and Architectural Control Overlay District regulations in the Village Code. Part of that code reads, inasmuch as the identity of a people is founded on its past, and since the Village of Cooperstown has many significant historic, architectural, and cultural resources, which constitute its heritage and make up its unique community character, the purpose and intent of this section is to, among other things, protect and enhance the village's historic structures and character, which represent distinctive elements of Cooperstown historic, architectural, and cultural heritage, the village's sense of place, and its unique character. As you know, in order to regulate this law, the Historic Preservation and Architectural Review Board, HPARB, was created. Main part of their duties include approval or disapproval of applications for certificates of appropriateness pursuant to this section. The law requires no person shall carry out any exterior alteration, restoration, reconstruction, demolition, new construction, or moving of any building, structure, or property within the historical district, nor shall any person make any material change in the appearance of such property without first obtaining a certificate of appropriateness from the Village of Cooperstown's Historic Preservation and Architectural Review Board. The law continues, no physical work on or alteration of any building, structure, or property shall commence until a certificate of appropriateness has been issued by HPARB. Failure to comply with the provisions of this section shall be deemed a violation. In addition to fines or penalties provided in the chapter, any person who demolishes, alters, or constructs in violation of this section shall be required to restore the property and its site to its appearance prior to the violation. The owners of 175 Main Street and their contractor, in my opinion, knowingly tried to cheat this law by installing vinyl siding and vinyl windows on a prominent historic building at the west end of Main Street Business District without first going to HPARB for review and approval. After it was brought to the attention of the appropriate village authorities, the owners and contractor were given a verbal stop work order and required to appear before HPARB. Instead of HPARB following the village code and requiring the owners to, quote unquote, restore the property and its site to its appearance prior to the violation, they made what can only be described as an indecisive decision. They went against just about every other decision they had made and ruled that the vinyl siding could remain on a large portion of the building. Additionally, they made this decision without giving any supporting rationale as to how this decision is in keeping with the village code. As the code reads, the board's decision shall be based on the following principles. Properties which contribute to the character of the village shall be retained with their historic features altered as little as possible. Any alteration of an existing property shall be compatible with its historic character, and new construction and application of new materials shall be compatible with the neighborhood in which it is located. The decision, in my opinion, met none of these criteria. The only explanation that HPART gave was that since the work was done already illegally, they wanted to reach a compromise. Because of this decision, I have contacted New York State Historic Preservation Office, SHPO, to analyze whether, based on this decision, the village of Cooperstown is truly trying to preserve our historic building. Or has this HPART decision now moved the village away from that preservation intent of the code? This decision sends out a clear message to the residents of Cooperstown. Go ahead, try to cheat the village law. You're better off asking for forgiveness rather than asking for permission to comply with the rules. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, John.
I'd like to
Yes,
And
please,
that-
hand that to Jenna. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Is there any other public
I
comment?
asked Tony a question.
Mm-hmm.
Tony,
Oh, Tony,
Yeah.
Tony, there's a question for you.
what do you propose be done now? What would be your solution at this point?
You mean prior to the,
No, I mean right
Decision.
this minute where we are at, in the present.
I've been a zoning officer in the past, not for Cooperstown. I've been a building official in the past for over 40 years off and on. So I'll use that in answering. As a resident, I'm very much against messing up kind of the thought of preservation in Cooperstown. As a official in the past, I would say follow the law. The law was fairly clear in the books. Cooperstown's HPAR historic district law was pretty clear that if something doesn't meet the intent of the law, that it gets denied. Again, I believe it should have been denied. I do not even realize, or I do not recognize that it was officially given an approval that meets the law. Because HPAR didn't rule on it as they have in all their other rulings, which is to give criteria of why they ruled a certain way. They didn't do that. I don't think the ruling is even valid. I don't know that it has actually been given an official ruling. Had I been asked my opinion beforehand, the laws gave HPAR a chance to actually call a public hearing. It's written into the historic laws that if they believed public hearing could be warranted, they could have called for a public hearing. They could have listened to all of us residents. Maybe we as a residents want to get rid of HPAR. Maybe we don't want to worry about vinyl siding on walls anymore. That's okay. But none of that happened. There was no discussion. And so, again, what do I think should happen right now? I believe that the decision should be looked at by SHPO, and if it's not valid, we only have a few more days to make that 62-day limit, or it becomes approved. I think the next meeting, from what I can tell, is still within the 62 days. So I think it should be reheard at the next HPAR meeting.
May I ask one clarifying question too? You said you reported this matter to SHPO with the expectation of a response. Have you had a response?
On Wednesday, I'm talking to them. The person that I needed to talk to has been away for a week, so I wasn't able to talk. I will be talking to her on Wednesday.
What is it that they could say in any official capacity?
I don't know. In fact, that's why I was calling just to ask. If they say we can't do anything or we can't advise you at all, then that's what the answer is.
Cindy?
I didn't attend the HR meeting this month, sometimes I do. It was my understanding from reading the minutes that HR made a motion to ask the owner to remove the vinyl siding on the courthouse side of the building. Is that?
That's what I remember too, yes.
I have the minutes here, yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But that was not
The other
an
side?
approval of
Right.
the other portions of the building that they're staying in. So maybe it wasn't even a decision. Maybe it was a discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. They, basically, it was allowed to stay on the east side. And
It did seem a strange motion to vote to ask the owner to do something.
and that is the wording.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like I said, I wasn't at the meeting, so I don't know if those are the exact words that were used, but
Mhm.
that was what it said.
Instead of required.
Yes.
Is there any other public comment? No, then I will close that portion of the meeting. We have received no correspondence, correct, Jenna?
That's correct.
So no correspondence was received. We have a couple of public hearings tonight. There'll be, two of them will be opened at 7. That's a local law amending parking on Beaver Street and a local law amending a zoning code to specify the procedure and information for a site development plan review. Then at 7:30, there will be an additional public hearing pertaining to revising our local smoking law to reflect cannabis joints and bongs. So that one will be at 7:30. And also, at 7:30 will be an amendment to our local law designating smoke and vape-free zones. So those are the 4 public hearings in essence, 3 basically tonight. Moving forward, we have several permit applications in our packet. The first is from the commander of the American Legion Post for the Veterans Day Parade on Friday, November 11th, from 11 to 1.
I'll make a motion to approve with the permit fee waived.
Motion made by Cindy, second by Sydney, all in favor? The next one is the,
We have to approve the permit itself. don't we?
excuse me?
We have to approve the
We
permit.
have to approve
So
the permit itself.
we just approved waiving the fee.
Oh, you're waiving the fee?
I said I would make a motion to approve the permit with the permit fee waived.
Okay.
That's,
I didn't hear that.
that was the motion I
I do
understood.
have one question here.
Uh-huh.
I think I know what they mean. Main Street does not, yes, it does intersect Hoffman Lane. I'm sorry. Never mind.
Okay, moving on, we have a application to use village property, village streets from Doug McCoy at the Clark Sports Center for the Cooperstown run on Sunday, October 30th from 1 to 3. And that's a fairly complete packet. You can see their map of the area, their certificate of liability insurance, the police department notification confirmation. And it also entails not just, and also the ugly, is that on there too?
Separate.
Yeah, it's ugly, it's the next
That
one.
was, the ugly sweater was actually first.
First, yeah, so this is the ugly sweater.
I'll make a motion to approve the application for the police letter run as submitted.
Second. Motion made by Cindy, second by Matt, all in favor?
Aye.
And then we have the, again, Doug McCoy, the Clark Sports Center for the Cuckoo Run on October 30th.
Second.
Second by Matt, all in favor?
Aye.
And then we have the Four Cs Christmas Committee application
for the Christmas parade to be held on Friday, November 25th from 5 until 5:15 p.m. It's a very quick dash down the main street as fast as everybody can walk. They begin at the former Cooper Inn to Santa's Cottage. There a motion?
Is that a new group?
They did it last year too.
Okay.
It's the abbreviated route, kind of pandemic era.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
Motion made by Cindy, second by Anna, all in favor?
Aye.
We have here the Cooperstown Fire Department Children's Holiday Party on Sunday, December 4th from 11 to 4. A motion,
So moved.
second by
I'll second.
Matt, all in favor?
There is one addition.
Yeah,
tonight.
and then, when you came tonight, there was one additional one. This is from the Cooperstown PTA for the Halloween parade on October 31st from 4:45 to 5:45. And I will tell you that parade never lasts that long. It's a mad dash down Main Street. But,
I'll make a motion to approve the use of Main Street and the lawn at 2020.
all right. Motion made by Sydney, second by Sydney, all in favor?
Aye.
Review of minutes, we only had one meeting since last time we met, it was September 26th, 2022. I know I submitted a correction as did Cindy, where anyone else had any comments? All right, is there a motion to approve the September 26th minutes
So moved.
by Matt, second by Sydney, all in favor?
Aye.
And we have the CEO's report. The ZBA, HPARB, and planning board minutes were emailed prior to the meeting. And let's see, we do have a proposed local law amending chapter 300 zoning of the code of the village of Cooperstown to prohibit age-restricted transactions as a home occupation, and that is attached to your CEO report.
Question,
Yes.
do we know of any of the home-based occupations in the village? If somebody's selling age-restricted goods out of their house? garage?
No, but it seemed to be potentially an area where the possibility could exist as we kind of expanded our home occupation businesses. Yeah, I do not know of any currently existing.
I'm
Is this also like an effort to prevent for example, a cannabis dispensary of some kind in the residential district? That would be something that would be prohibited by this addition, by this.
Would be prohibited
It would
by
be.
this,
Okay,
yeah, so
great.
would
To my understanding.
selling homebrew alcohol
Of course.
or cigarettes.
Cigarettes, yeah.
I think the other potential issue that's made with these lately is selling 3D printed gun paraphernalia.
Yeah, absolutely, sure. I was just curious if we had become aware of anything, so thank you.
Is there any questions or comments on this? All right, well, we would like a motion to set a public hearing for our November meeting on this proposed local law.
So
So moved by Cindy, second by Matt, all in favor. I would like to say that I do have currently 2 vacancies on our ZBA, so as alternate positions. There's one person who will be attending the next meeting and may decide to be on there, but it's always great to have those 2 alternate positions filled on all our boards. So if you have any thoughts or recommendations for another individual who could be appointed, please let me know. Motion to accept the CEO report.
So moved.
Cindy, all in favor?
Aye.
Public Safety Committee.
Two things of specific note. We went over the use of cameras in public area policy. We tweaked it a little bit, very little. There are errors on this. There are typos in here. Do you want me to give them to you as we go along?
That would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, paragraph 2, policy. Second line, it says the CPD and will take measures to ensure that the image is collected. Either that's and the village or the and is deleted.
Yeah, if you go either way, whichever people prefer.
What do people prefer?
I think it should be and the village,
Okay.
because we're the elected officials.
I
as
think
well.
so too.
Yep.
Okay, we go a couple of pages. Actually, this is relatively free. Section 8, auditing and inspections. And I'm sure this is a transcription error. I think it's an error. Section 8, auditing inspections. Line 5, the impact of the use of the camera system on incidents. It should be incidents, ENTS, I believe. Crimes in light of investigations and arrests.
Where are you reading in terms of your
Page
8?
5.
Page 5,
I got it.
section 8, line 5. The word incidents, I believe, should be incidents. And I know I'm really good at pronouncing that too.
The TS in the end.
Should be a T, ENTS instead of ENCE.
The municipality from which I borrowed this policy was not aware of that error.
They didn't have me on their board.
Well, it could be occurrence, incidents, NCE as occurrence.
It could be,
Probably.
but then, interestingly, I thought about it. Then it should have been of crime, not of crimes. So something's wrong there.
Yeah.
I would change it. Otherwise, that's this is what we reviewed and this is what we recommend. We also recommend pay raise for the chief of police. Originally, his pay was limited because of the rules of his retirement as a police officer elsewhere in the state, but the numbers for that have been increased. We haven't had a pay raise for him since he began.
Let's focus first on the draft policy. Were there any other comments or on the use of cameras in public areas policy?
My only comment is that I don't think the data is there to support implementing this kind of a surveillance program in the village, and I would oppose pursuing installation of cameras in our public spaces.
That'll be noted in the minutes. Any other questions, comments, additions?
With our last policy, although no one spoke on it, we set a public hearing. to
We would
consider it.
need that, but I just was trying to see if anybody else had any changes for things they had questions on. No? Okay.
I'll make a comment, Ellen. As much as I am in favor of protecting our community and public safety, I really tend to agree with Joe that I think that, whether I guess you could define it as like mass surveillance in the village, it's uncomfortable. I think that we live in we're really lucky to live in a safe, peaceful place where this kind of surveillance isn't quite necessary to the point that this would make it out to be.
Thank you, Matt. Richard?
Meanwhile, I'll disagree with you because lately we've been turning we have an alarm system. 2, usually we previously only used it when we were away from home. Now we're using it on the stay feature at night. if I'm correct, there have been a couple of entries. I don't know if you call them break-ins, but there have been entries by an individual into homes. And I don't see a problem of us making a record of what happens in public space if it will help to ensure that the public is safer. I agree with you that if we were viewing into people's homes through their windows, I even agree with you that if we were recording their conversations, which they should have a reasonable expectation of privacy if they keep their voices down. But no one should have an expectation of privacy while being outside. And I really think this is important and will be help possibly in solving some crimes and may even be a help in deterring crime.
Can I ask, was it discussed at public safety where the number and where location of these cameras, just for everyone's edification?
It was discussed not in the last public safety meeting, because I wasn't able to attend, so I don't know if it was discussed,
No.
but it was discussed in the meeting beforehand, and I believe it was 4 cameras, 1 outside Village Hall,
Yeah.
2 on the flagpole, and then 1 by the stoplight.
By the way, stoplight,
By the
yeah.
stoplight.
Yeah,
So
2 on the
then-
flagpole pointing
I think
out.
there was one by the docks.
Oh, dock, and 1 by the docks, yeah. Yes, because that's more of, so it would be 5, it was not 4, sorry, that was my.
Because there are gonna be 2 attached to the flagpole, one going east, one going west.
Yeah, so we cover,
Mhm.
and I think the dock was an area that was suggested by the chief of police, because that is an area that tends to have some visitors at night that maybe aren't supposed to be there, so.
All right, any other comments, questions? If not, then yes, we would need to set a public hearing if we are going to, want to move forward with this, so.
I make a motion to set a public hearing to approve our policy of use of cameras in public areas policy for our next board meeting.
Which is what, November
21st.
28.
28th, yeah, November 28th. Is there a second to that motion by Sydney? Any further discussion? All those in favor of the public hearing, please say aye. And those opposed to a public hearing.
Hold on. I'm sorry. It says that our next regular board of trustees meeting is.
Yeah, that
And then I
is
said
incorrect.
the
That is
answer.
our 28th.
Yes.
Oh, got you. Sorry, I missed that, my fault.
So those opposed to setting a public hearing at the November 28th meeting, please raise your hand. Those abstaining.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm voting in favor of public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand go up.
My bad, I was
Motion.
distracted by the.
All right, by the date.
But yes, I'm in favor of the public hearing.
All right. And the other thing from your committee, the salary increase will be referred to finance and personnel, which you sit on, and Joe chairs. So Joe, that will be discussed at the next finance personnel. It would be useful to, I did glance at the revenue and expense ledger that's, up to date for this meeting. And it does look like there are adequate funds. We've also just added a full-time position that had been vacant for a little while. So I do think there'd be some number crunching, but I
And
think.
is there any, did the committee look into any criteria for a raise?
Yeah, 1, there has not been a raise so far. 2, we artificially kept his salary low so as not to trigger provisions of his retirement plan. 3, I think he's done an excellent job and has been very sensitive towards not just public safety, but individual rights and not violating them. He's done a very good job of training his people, and I think we have a very good police force because of it.
No, yeah, I'm not questioning that. I'm questioning more about the metrics of police chief salaries across.
Oh, his salary is way lower than it would normally be.
May I ask, he was hired part-time, so,
Right.
are we still In other words, Joe, there's gotta be more data collected,
Yeah, I'd
because
like
I'm not
that.
sure of his exact hours now, he was hired part-time for.
Right.
If I recall correctly, wasn't it 30 hours?
I thought it was 30.
It's usually part-time, but so the proposed number would be remain part-time.
That's what I mean, I think there's more logistics homework that has to be done, so, Joe, I'm throwing this at finance and personnel to gather some of that information, so an informed decision can come back to the board.
Exactly, that's why I would turn to the committee for more information.
All right, I think you're right.
And I think that, you can obviously, as
I'm
finance.
happy to collaborate.
I'll go back and look at the number. Since you're asking me to do it, I should have access to the numbers, the salaries and stuff, which I don't routinely have. So I think we have to, you agree with that, Bill?
Joe would have access to the,
You and I both, right?
What?
You and I both as.
Yeah,
Okay, fine. So,
anything else from public safety?
From the fire committee, Rich wasn't able to attend, but I brought some of the issues that we talked about the last time to them. So the first one is the ladder truck. So not this most recent fire committee meeting, the one before, it was brought to my attention that the ladder truck is something like 29 years old, and there's serious concern that it might not last, and a new one would take a little while. And I know that you sort of mentioned that the village didn't fund that first one, so the fire committee would like to basically move forward looking into options of what that would look like in terms of how much it would, how much a ladder truck would cost, the details of actually ordering something like that, and then put in the effort and work to get to the point of being able to purchase a fire truck, as well as looking into potential federal grants to supplement.
And was there any discussion, and I know this has come up somewhat in the past, because that is an aerial ladder that it will not just go to a junkyard, it will be purchased by another company. But is there any look at refurbishment costs?
We have not discussed that. I can definitely bring it up, especially if there's gonna be sort of a subcommittee formed to actually put in the effort to look into what it would look like to get a ladder truck or refurbish it.
So on the point of retrofitting the
Yeah.
aerial truck, at one point in the recent past, I thought I understood to be that one of the concerns was not being able to retrofit it in an effective way.
I think it's not that it's not being able to, it's that the individual parts may take longer to procure than it would to procure another fire ladder.
And the
Does that make
timeline is
sense?
something like 2 years, right?
Yeah,
for
for another
truck.
ladder truck, it's something like 2 years at this point, because they're individually made to order, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it may not be, the amount of money spent for that would be better spent for a bigger one. It wasn't just though that we did not, again, it's probably 26 years, you're correct, that was purchased. It was never part of the, we have a DPW equipment replacement fund, a fire department equipment replacement fund. That vehicle, because it was never purchased by the 1995 aerial ladder truck in replacement schedule, annual contribution doesn't include that, and the annual contribution for our fire equipment is almost 51,000. So if we had included over the years, the aerial would have been almost double that, and it was because the village had never purchased it. I'm just explaining to you that there are no reserve funds that had ever been allocated for the aerial ladder.
Has there been any exploration? There are a few manufacturers of these vehicles. Once I can't imagine that they all wear at exactly the same rate in exactly the same way necessarily. Is there a parts surplus place that we can resort to, some sort of a network? I mean, the idea of buying a part versus buying a truck, seems appealing to me.
Yeah, so from what I understand, and I haven't done the research myself, but I'm very happy to work with the fire committee to do this research, is that the individual parts are harder to come by than ordering an entire vehicle. And so if the worst case scenario happened and the ladder truck ceased to function, and it's used in not just village-wide, fire calls, it's used wherever they're asked to assist, it would be years and years until we'd be able to fix it, let alone get another one.
Basically,
So a
Joe,
plan needs to be put in place.
The original manufacturers are no longer supporting the engine. So when parts are necessary, they literally have to be individually fabricated.
Right. And there's
And
specifications.
some of them could be, the specifications could be difficult, and some of these could be hard to get, find somebody to make them. So the question is, when does the thing fall apart from this, and how often do we have it out of use while waiting for parts to be manufactured?
And
And handmade, on a single basis.
And Sydney, I just, I'm thinking, we have an aerial ladder truck. Most of the rural fire departments in the county do or do not, they do not have
No,
them. So
the only
the closest other option to come to aid Bassett Hospital or the Osaga would be City of
Oh,
Oneonta.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. But even Holland, it's like, it's still 20 minutes drive.
Yeah, yeah, and when,
Yeah.
in cases when that's needed, the 20 minutes is like life or death for many cases, so.
So in terms of thinking about the finances,
Yeah.
if there is a new truck purchase as opposed to a refurbishment,
Mhm.
someone will buy the truck
Yes.
that we have now, so that should be factored
Yes.
into the pluses and minuses.
The finances.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, the other thing you said that is sort of interesting, and I know will not be a popular thing to say on fire departments, is that there are other communities immediately surrounding ours that are dependent upon this particular truck, Hardwick in particular, as they have built taller buildings.
Mhm.
And so sharing a piece of equipment might be something to think about.
Okay, I mean, I think all of these, so right now, the way that I understood it was the fire committee wasn't sure the seriousness with which we might take needing to get a new ladder truck, so they haven't put in as much effort to check off all the boxes of what they can actually do. So what they want me to do is bring it to you all, and it seems that we're probably all on a similar page of it. We probably need to have a truck to this extent in our area, because the closest one is Oneonta. So,
A plan at a minimum.
yeah,
It's like so important.
so what I'll do is I'll bring it back to the committee that we come together and actually do the research into options that we want, options that maybe are unpopular but still options, and then also financing through selling the truck, through grants and fundraising. And it's just,
cost and
yeah,
sharing
yeah.
is indeed recommended, because that would be, an ideal sort of scenario.
Mhm. And then to that effect with financing, the other thing that was brought up was the soft billing for ambulances, and it's something that has been talked about before, but there's concerns that with soft billing, with any billing in reference to the ambulances, the thought would be that the EMTs would want those funds to go back and cycle back into EMT related budgets.
100%, I would think that. I'm
And
not
then-
exactly sure, this is the very recent
Yes.
legislation.
And then the other concern is that with billing like that, they're not comfortable billing for ambulances and not paying volunteer and not paying EMTs. So it would move away from a volunteer fire or volunteer paramedics. And that would then in turn potentially lead them to create their own coalition, which then, so there's a lot of moving parts here. And one question that was asked was, the budget that has been sort of established for the paramedics, for the EMTs, would that be something that could be moved into a coalition's budget so that they can have access to those funds, or would it just?
Are you talking about a core?
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
talking
sorry.
about core.
Yeah.
A core, and when it's a core, it is separate and distinct, they would
Right.
actually have to buy the equipment, et cetera.
I think if that's the case, then I think the overwhelming idea was that they're not in favor of billing, because that would just not really, at this point, it just doesn't seem like something that they're interested in doing without being able to become a core. It's something that we can
And
continue to talk about.
we've
but-
actually asked them to look at being a core, so if that is the
Mhm.
route to go.
Mhm.
It certainly seems that the path, reading about neighboring counties,
Mhm.
Delaware County, et cetera, several others. There are fire departments that have, they don't necessarily do it themselves, there are services, much like we have municipal solutions to help handle some of our billing, that sort of thing. Then that would be a service that was,
Mhm.
paid for
Right.
to do the billing, so that's not an onus on the volunteers.
I think, what I meant, I don't know if I said this because I've had a really long time today, what I meant was that they would be interested in becoming a core only if they could be financially supported. Right, they wouldn't be interested in becoming a core and not having access to the funds that they were.
I don't think that that's possible.
So.
I mean, cores are independent and they usually engage in their own fundraising.
Yeah.
Right.
I can't tell you that with the new soft building rules,
Are they suggesting a
that they
contribution?
don't
of-
stay with.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, I don't know enough about the new rules
Right.
to know if that can be done.
I mean, one option would be that the soft billing, the billing that is being put into effect, rather than immediately going towards, but I don't know if this is legal, rather than immediately going towards paying paramedics and staying within the funds, perhaps those funds could be then used for the future development of a core, but then that's still.
I
That's
do know
right.
that there's been a prohibition about cores are seen as independent entities that must own their own equipment, their own structures, and provide for their own costs. And you couldn't use municipal money to pay for cores.
Right.
It's a policy the state has, I can't vouch for it, I just know it
Right.
exists. I don't know if the new rules that are being promulgated, I understand they're much more favorable in terms of soft billing. I have not read them thoroughly enough to know if those funds though can be dedicated to a core. And if they can, we're probably the old rules were cores raised on.
Right.
Certainly it's something I can look into.
Yeah, that would be excellent, and then. Oh gosh, I just had a thought, and I lost it.
Mac, did you have a question?
Well, I think my question's answered, but just for clarification, what they're suggesting is a contribution of village tax dollars to the core.
I got that.
Is that's?
Yeah,
Okay,
essentially.
I just want to make sure I was properly
The way
understanding.
they put it was essentially rolling over the current budget that's allotted to paramedic funds into a core. The other thing that I would say is that because there's this tension between the county ambulances and the volunteer, I don't foresee them wanting to become a core anytime soon, because that would mean that we would, like, the village, the fire department would be selling the ambulances. And then that leaves the ambulances open for the county to buy them, which they would probably have the money before, so it's like, it just seems like a really big.
One of the real problems, and I've really tried to be supportive of the Courage Squad. Part of the problem, one of the big problems is they're down to only a handful, less than a handful of EMTs.
Yeah.
And the other problem is it's difficult to compete against the service that the counties do.
Right.
The truth of the matter is I've been bringing this up for a couple of years and it hasn't gained traction. And now, I think it's gonna, I'm happy to look into all these issues, and we should look into all these issues. But I don't see a solution whereby the village pays to create a core.
Mhm.
And I'm just giving you my opinion. As much as I'd like to say create a core, I don't think there's the funding to get to that point. Especially when we're dealing with a very small handful of people who could actually take call. There's not a good business model right now. But we'll look at it. We'll look at it, and the important thing actually to the village, and again, this is not what I would like to say, but the important thing to the village is that there's rapid ambulance service to people in the village. And however we get there is what's really important, not who does it, but how it's done. I do know that there've been complaints from village residents when they've gotten bills from the county ambulance system. And there was a case of one person who called for the ambulance and refused and wanted only the village system, village ambulance, because they wouldn't have to pay for it.
I do believe, though, that the county ambulance.
Oh, the county is
also
doing soft billing, yes. But
So,
there was a misunderstanding there.
They're billing them. I don't know if it's soft.
no,
I think it's
it's
soft,
not,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
I thought, because they can bill the insurance, I know.
Well, that's what soft billing really is. They bill, if you have insurance, they take the insurance payment. If you don't have insurance, you're not billed.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. I mean.
Even the county, that's the way they're.
Yeah.
That's my understanding of it.
So, and I agree with what Rich said. I think that the most important thing is to provide swift response to those in need. I think, the fact, like, another point that was brought up that I'm interested in, I'm not exactly sure if this is reflective of what's actually happening, is, they're concerned that at the rate that the county ambulance is sort of growing, that it will basically make volunteer EMTs and it will just eradicate that, but they're also concerned that the rate at their growth rate right now is not sustainable, and that they might not be able to commit to being available for the next 5-10 years as they are right now, because they have a lot of money behind what they're doing. And so the concern is, if those two things come to a head and county ambulance can't quite afford to keep on as many people as because they're hiring a lot of people right now, and there's no more effort for a volunteer force, very few options.
So just one other thing to have on your plate when you're thinking about all this, is the county funded the ambulance service with American Rescue Funds. And when that money runs out, they're going to have to figure out where that money is going to come from, and if they can't come to a consensus, there won't be any funding for it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, it's a big priority to fund it and to figure out how to make it work, but you know, there's just,
right.
they have to figure it out, and that's floating around.
Or
out there.
what
Right.
has happened in other counties where there's a county ambulance service, it ultimately, once those COVID relief funds are no longer available and been used up, then it becomes a tax, just like we pay a fee for various user fees, et cetera.
May I ask just one last question?
All right, I do want to, I think, so we've given you enough direction to go back. Martin, you're going to be looking up more on this new law that we recently passed. I know Beltramo has quite a bit on it because he spearheaded it when I.
There's a CLE coming up.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this goes back to the fire trucks. Just two very brief questions. One, do we know what's wrong with the truck and the parts it needs, or is this just anticipating that something's wrong? That goes to my question then to Cindy. If we think we can sell this truck when we buy a new truck, what are we selling? And how is that truck going to be functional to the purchaser? It doesn't, so the two words I wrote down were preventive maintenance. There, people can manufacture parts if they needed $50,000 as opposed to $5 million or $2 million for a truck. I don't know. It just.
No, I think
doesn't
that's a
make lot
good
of
point.
sense.
And from what I understand, I think this is sort of anticipatory of it just failing. I can definitely past. And this is part of what we would be doing in our research of coming to a conclusion is, you know, are there real places that we can actually work on the truck and not have to buy a new one?
Is there a motion to accept the public safety report? By Max, second by Cindy, all in favor? Okay, it's now 7:20 and we'll be opening two proposed local laws, number 6 of 2022. A local law amending parking on Beaver Street. Do we have the things here? I was looking in, it's not my package, do we have?
I did not see
streets?
hard copy.
It's not in there.
Yeah, I think so. And then the other one is a proposed local law number 7 of 2022, a local law amending chapter 300 zoning of the code of the village of Cooperstown to specify the procedure and the information required to be included in application for site development plan review. Are there any comments on either of the proposed local laws?
Well, that's the first thing. I looked for a copy of the law online, it wasn't there. But my understanding from the last meeting and discussions we held was that local law number 6, the parking on Beaver Street, was up for discussion as to whether it was going to be expanded was the availability of parking on Beaver Street was going to be expanded on both Sunday and Saturday. And the public hearing was set with the phrase of both in there, and you were going to decide on which one's going to be. That was my understanding the last time I was here. Is that still in existence?
Yes.
Okay, good. So what I'm here to speak about is why it should be on Saturday. And why it should be on Saturday is because the traffic patterns are the same Saturday as they are Sunday. In fact, they're very, very similar. The point has been raised to me that perhaps this is deviation from our standard practice in the village of what we do for parking. And we do permit parking on Sunday to respect various churches in the village, which is an exception. But other than that, all you have to do is walk down Beaver Street, and there are enough exceptions to parking rules and regulations on that one street. Everything from different times, different parking, different places. It's the list you guys have. So we know that there really is no acceptable village standard practice for parking on Saturdays versus Sundays. The only exception for Sundays was done for churches. So we were asking for a Saturday because the traffic isn't there. We've spoken to all our neighbors. They're all in agreement with that, except for you. I didn't talk to you because I figured you were here.
Or me, Bill, you didn't stop by.
Well, you were here.
Well, you see, you're here. And also it's really an effect between Delaware and Eagle. And that's the interesting thing is since our last meeting, there have been construction trucks parked on the street all day Friday and all day today. And that was nice because it did slow up traffic, but they were parked actually on the south side where it says no parking. But I thought that was interesting that we watched them all day out there, watching cars going around and then doing all that. But, so we feel that it really is a matter of during the week when the traffic is fairly heavy due to the full shifts at the hospital, people going back and forth to the hospital with shift work. Although some of that has been minimized by the traffic now down on Walnut Street due to the parking lot that was built on Susquehanna Avenue. So that has deflected quite a bit of the traffic because I was over on Walnut Street early in the morning, watching all the hospital cars go by. And so our feeling is that we'd really like to push for both Saturday and Sunday in the new proposed law. Can I answer any questions from anyone? Nope. Well, thank you.
Yeah, there might be a question. Let's see. Cindy, can you send that around again? It's kind of unfortunate that we don't have the.
It was in the last packet, so I just assumed.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And it was
I did
also
go
in the
back.
paper with public hearing, I actually listed the actual.
Yeah, so
In the notice of paper.
Do you want me to send it to Jen so we can all look at a hard copy?
That would be.
I
I
have
think- I
a
think
copy
we-
right here.
right.
and I'll make a
Can
copy.
we have a copy?
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm wearing my contract right now.
Thank you, Jenna. We appreciate that.
I only have this one that has the changes. Is that gonna work? Or do you want one on the paper? What is it?
The paper listed the various law differences.
Yes, I would put the whole
That
entire law
one,
in
that
the notice.
That would be perfect. Thank you.
Well, one thing it comes down to is we all agreed on everything except Bill's issue. Whether the parking is limited in that portion of Beaver Street to just Sunday or Saturday and Sunday. Otherwise, there was unanimity on everything else and everything else in the law.
I thought what I was hearing is that there isn't, it's kind of all, you know, all over the place in the village, depending versus Saturday or Sunday. Do we have one consistent standard?
So
We don't, right?
the Monday to Saturday thing refers to 2-hour parking. So anywhere in the village where there is 2-hour parking, those restrictions apply Monday to Saturday. Very few of our signs say that, but the way the law is written, those 2-hour restrictions don't apply. So that was the reason for treating Sunday differently, because there is precedent for it within our law. I'm saying it's the right thing in this situation, it's a somewhat different circumstance, but that was the rationale.
Yeah.
So basically, as is pointed out, the Eagle to Delaware, Delaware to Eagle is the one that sort of we have the most discussion about. Shall we just confirm that everyone is comfortable with the Beaver Street parking, Pioneer to Fair, Susquehanna to Pioneer, and Eagle to Susquehanna? Yes. So we don't even look at that area. Okay. And you are saying that you would like it,
Be Monday to Friday.
It was Chestnut. Chestnut to Delaware.
We didn't propose to change.
Oh, okay, that's why it's not here.
so essentially the third variable under Delaware to Eagle is the one being discussed right now, because that is the Monday to Friday or the Monday to Saturday. Yeah. Is there any other public comment on the other public hearing, the site development plan review? Are there any other comments on Beaver Street? All right, I think in the interest of moving forward, and certainly even after I close it, if you have an additional comment, I'll allow that. I'm going to close the public hearings. So is there discussion? I know Cindy, you and police committee were kind of tasked to look at the parking regs there and come up with these recommendations. Are there any thoughts or comments from the committee?
I guess my thought is, so I live right across from the Wallers. Anytime there are cars parked on that block, it means that anytime, like if we're trying to leave our parking space or driveway, it becomes 5 to 7 minutes of waiting for cars to stop in the right location to allow us to come out. So I would just suggest that be taken into account as well, because I do also have neighbors who I think I've seen the same or similar situations. So it's not just a matter of traffic, but also moving, like physically being able to get out of our spaces in a timely manner.
I'd like to address that.
Can I address that?
Sure.
If you go 90
There's
feet
no
down,
parking- There's
that's,
no parking allowed from during the day when the high traffic occurs. So I've never seen anybody parked on that street except for one occasion when we had a meeting at our house. I wish they were parked there in violation, but fortunately the police didn't say anything. It is true, it can be difficult to get out of the driveway, but that's during the day when there's traffic. Remember, this will be after 6 p.m.
But you're asking us to have Saturdays and Sundays
Also available.
Right.
but you're talking about having
But
90
there's no
feet from the
traffic.
corner, and you could pull out of your driveway, because nobody will be parking there, because they won't be parking until the big tree.
Don't forget, the part of this parking regulation was no parking in the corner being moved down past the big tree, right to basically end of my property line.
Yeah, but that's only if I'm pulling out one way, right? If I'm pulling out the other way, it's a different story.
No, which,
All right.
Okay.
Are there any other comments? So basically, we're looking at no parking in the block from Delaware to Eagle, no parking 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. either Monday through Saturday or Monday through Friday. In the section of the block from Eagle to Susquehanna, it's 2-hour parking, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. So we're basically looking at Monday through Saturday or Monday through Friday. So are there any other comments on that variation? Because I think what we need is to pin down
I
one of these.
have a question.
Mhm.
In other locations, do we know of another space or another street that has no parking 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. with a date like that suggests except for weekends or something, or even 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Are there any restrictions like that?
There are no restrictions that are 7 to 6. This would be unusual for this street. There are restrictions on Walnut Street that are Monday through Friday.
Okay.
Basically, reasons.
I just have one question, why Eagle to Susquehanna is Monday through Friday? But yet Delaware to Eagle has to be through Saturday.
Again, it's not, we haven't determined which one it is. It's
Okay.
or, there's an or there.
I know, I see the or, but you're gonna be inconsistent if you don't do that.
That's just an editorial question. For the purposes of this discussion, we are talking about Beaver Street. Beaver Street does not exist on this paper.
You're right, it doesn't say Beaver right there.
I've been
It is.
struggling with my geography, I don't know why. I don't, these streets don't connect.
These are all intersections of.
Right.
Yeah.
But Beaver's not mentioned that.
Yeah, that should be.
Yeah, it changed.
Yeah.
This is on the account. I was measuring where the 90 feet came to. And it's on. It is to the west of the big tree
Right,
by a bit.
right, but it's a good amount.
Yes, it is.
It is basically across from Cindy's driveway.
I'm gonna just say, and again, we all have our perspectives on this, we all have our reasons. I gotta say that I find the Waller's argument compelling, that there's no reason. No, there's a problem, if there's a problem getting out, there's a problem getting out. But there's no reason to make Saturday and Sunday different.
Yeah, I have one thought as well. What Cindy just mentioned, this only other place, Cindy, I think you said was on Walnut Street,
I'm
where we
aware
have
of
it,
that one, yeah.
and it's Monday through Friday. So given that's the only other place in the village where there's something like this in terms of parking regulation, I don't see any reason not to uniform it and
All right.
have it be Monday through Friday.
Is there a consensus? No parking 7 a.m., 6 p.m., Monday through Friday on the block of Beaver Street between Delaware to Eagle. Is there a consensus on that? All right, so that is it.
And I would just suggest that the title of this,
Yeah. I'm sending it
amending
to
parking for Beaver
you.
Street,
Yeah, I'm sending it.
For Beaver Street.
or whatever is appropriate to say, because that's all it is.
Yeah, it probably just needs to say between the following cross streets on Beaver. Yeah. Mhm. That would be the appropriate wording. So with those changes, the proposal of the law number 6 of 2022, we just kind of altered it to make sure it says Beaver, and then notes that these between these cross streets, we have exactly as printed in the public hearing legal notice, except we eliminated the or. We have gone with between Delaware to Eagle, no parking, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Is there a motion to approve that local law?
So, go ahead.
You were.
So,
Second.
Moved by Richard, second by Matt, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. All right, and then the other public hearing, which we all reviewed the wording on that last time pertaining to where it specifies the procedure and information required to be included in the application for site development plan review. We will note that this was generated by our planning board chair and went through a lot of review there, went through a lot of review with the zoning review committee, so and then was presented here. So are there any concerns, or is there a motion to approve?
To do seeker.
Oh, we have to do seeker on that one because it's zoning.
Yeah. So I'm
Um,
gonna try to do this relatively quickly because we did it last month, so I think everyone's.
And could do
familiar
it,
with
because
the
again, we're
process.
only voting on the law,
So,
Right.
law itself, so just back in.
So I'm just gonna read you the 11 categories, and I believe we're gonna check no for all of them. A conflict with our land use plan or zoning,
No.
intensity of land use, existing community character, critical environmental area, level of traffic or other effects on infrastructure for mass transit, biking or walking, energy conservation or renewable energy, water supplies, wastewater treatment, utilities, historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources, natural resources, flooding or drainage problems, and human health.
No.
I will make a motion that we check the box that says, check this box if you have determined based on the information and analysis above and any supporting documentation that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts.
I second that motion.
Favor? Aye.
And now I'll make a motion that we approve the amendments to the site development plan section of the zoning code.
Motion made by Cindy, second by Sydney, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we have now entered 7:30, so I will now open the public hearing for proposed local law number 8 of 2022, a local law amending chapter 233, smoking using lighted cannabis, tobacco products, closed cigarettes, and similar substances, including without limitation cigarettes, cigars, joints, bongs, and pipes, and amending chapter 233-3A. The following areas owned by the village are hereby designated as smoke and vape-free zones. Village Hall and adjoining land at 22 Main Street, Doubleday Field, the Doubleday Field grandstand bleachers and other spectator and player areas, sidewalks and adjacent public property on Main Street between Fair Street and Pine Boulevard. So essentially what's being added is what I just read, sidewalks and adjacent public property on Main Street between Fair Street and Pine Boulevard. And Council Rock, because then it lists our parks, and Council Rock Park, Lakefront Park, Pioneer Park, Badger Park, 3 Mile Point Park, and Berry Spring Park. So it's basically eliminating smoking in the congested downtown area between Fair and Pine Boulevard. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on that? Bill?
Hello again. In a recent trip, 3 weeks ago, we drove up to Old Forge and then on to the Speculator and had a very nice dinner in Speculator. It was a beautiful time to go look at the leaves and everything. It was absolutely spectacular in the Adirondacks. And it was a Saturday. And as we drove through Old Forge being, I don't know if you're familiar with Old Forge, it is parking on both sides of the street, but it is, the main street is quite small and congested. So we were driving down at about 3 or 4 miles an hour with the windows down in the car. And my eyes started to water. I mean, I really, literally, we were going to stop at the Old Forge hardware store, which is a sort of an annual pilgrimage just to look at the Old Forge hardware store. But we didn't. And we didn't stop at all because we could barely breathe. And that was the intense smell of cannabis being smoked on the main street of Old Forge. It was so intense that my eyes were actually watering. And it took a while for the smell of the cannabis to leave the car. we had to roll the windows up and the filters, unfortunately, in the car didn't filter all of it out. So it really was quite objectionable. So I applaud this particular law because I think it would drastically affect the people that we have, particularly children, walking up and down Main Street during the summer. So I'm supportive of this, and I think that it was a very good decision to do this, to add that to our non-smoking. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the proposed local law?
I just want to tell you, somebody who has allergies, yes, you need to pass this law, because yes, my eyes are burning too, and we never stopped, we just kept going. That's how bad it was. If they want to do it in their own home or wherever, that's fine, but, and what about babies? You know, people who have babies with them and stuff, what effect does that have on the baby, the smoke?
Is there any other comments?
I have a problem. Well, unless I just strictly.
Yeah, I think, well, let me, I guess, close the public hearing and sure if no one else wants to, so then we can go on and have a discussion. Go ahead.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, this is a good local law. It definitely promotes public health, and I'm in favor of it. But if we're going to pass something, there are glaring loopholes right here too. And we should be thorough in the ways and forms in which people can use lighted cannabis in this particular zone. A couple of other paraphernalia, I suppose you could call them, are bubblers as well as blunts. And if we're putting joints in, you should put blunts in too, because if it's not clear in the law, that's an easy way to, especially if you know what the law says, you know, officer, I'm not smoking a joint, I'm smoking a blunt. So let's just be thorough if we're gonna pass something. So I'd like to recommend the addition of those two.
I will point out, though, both of them require using lighted cannabis, which is prohibited in these areas.
Well,
Doesn't matter whether
so
you
I'm
call
just,
it
I'm
a
just
joint.
language specific. They're two different things.
Right,
Just should we try and list them all?
No,
I'm
You've
just
got
suggesting a
bongs
language
in there,
change.
which are, I mean, Richard, that that's lighted cannabis.
I'm just saying, we say no lighted cannabis. Here, the first three words effectively of the law, smoking, using lighted cannabis. It doesn't say how it's lighted, we're just saying it's lighted. Now, all the other things, if you're using a joint, a bong, blunt, or pipe, it's gotta be, it's lighted. You don't even have to say that to make this law.
But if you're gonna put bongs in,
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing, I'm
or
just saying.
pipes, you might as well, I think having blunts, it doesn't hurt it.
Yeah,
Put in
it's-
blunts.
Sure, and then they'll start calling it something else
but
anyway.
here's the, if I may, the problem with the sentence is the latter part of it is the means by which this lighted cannabis is used. And that's the problem. No one is ingesting a joint or a bong or burning a pipe. So if we're trying to capture the burning substance and then the means by which it is burned or consumed, I would say the means, to change the sentence to talk about the means. A similar substance is not a pipe, right? A similar substance is not a bong.
No, a similar substance is another substance that you can smoke.
Right.
Right?
So I'm just saying, if we're trying to,
We're being little.
Mac is urging us to capture two things, the universe of what the substances look like or what the substance is, and then the means by which it's used.
But I have a
And-
question. If we include the means by which it's used, does that mean that you can't carry, like you can't have a bong out in public at all?
If you're using it to smoke with or to consume with the lighted product.
So maybe instead of listing them out, we just refer to all lighted.
All methods.
All
of-
methods of lighting
of
and
lighting
consumer
and
cannabis.
Well, I mean, and that, it's again, going back to what I said, the law is pretty clear. If you say a local law amending chapter 233, smoking using lighted cannabis, tobacco products, clove, cigarettes, and similar substances, period.
Yeah. I
Because
agree.
you're right, the word including is inappropriate because the other things are not similar substances.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's every.
I just get rid of that, and it still
I
says
agree,
the same
I agree.
thing. And that way we don't have to worry about which device that we forgot to put in here.
Right.
Before we get into amending this too much, Joe, I did have you catch right before coming your correction or changes you had suggested. So at the moment, I have the village attorney looking at that because we advertised it this way, so there are a couple of factors. Is the advertisement we had applicable if we do change this wording, this is still within the scope? And we can look at that.
I like Joe's wording.
Yeah.
I think it's much preferred, but I think we have to advertise a public hearing.
Yeah, I think we would too.
Let me counter the thought. We originally had this language, let me just get it out here, the way I edited it. We, sidewalks and adjacent public property. I don't know what adjacent public property means in association with a sidewalk. That's village property. So it's vague enough, it's general enough to encompass the more specific thing I'm talking about, which is the streets, and because that's really what we're talking about, the street, the sidewalk, because all other public property, all other village property is accounted for in this area, right? We've got our parklands, we've got our sidewalks, we've got, the only thing I didn't see we had, oh, and then I added Fowler Way and so forth. So maybe that's a separate set of issues, but we have, Fowler Way is disconnected from our Main Street categorization here, right? That's why I was just looking for any place in that. And I don't know what we call our parking lot, that other parking lot, not the metered parking lot. Don't we have another parking lot?
The follow way.
Lot, yeah, I guess that's it. And so maybe I didn't capture that either, but those aren't, so maybe to your point about the scope of this, I have expanded the scope. As to the specifics of Main Street, I don't think I have. But in that case, then the question is, do we care about eliminating those havens for smoking, outside the ballpark?
Well, so what you cleared up though, because I was thinking about this after we set the public hearing, we prohibited smoking on the sidewalk and adjacent public property, which I took to mean like tree lawn and like.
Yeah.
We didn't prohibit it in this law within the street. So all you would simply have to do is step into the parking area and you wouldn't be violating the law, and you
Yeah,
did
yeah.
clear that up.
And that's what I tried to capture that. Yeah.
The only thing, so is the opinion that we probably should re-advertise this. I think it's,
Do you feel we've expanded it that much?
okay, so let me read it. It was sent to all of us, Joe?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it was sent to everyone, but it was right before our meeting. The following areas owned by the village are hereby designated as smoke and vape-free zones. Village Hall and adjoining land at 22 Main Street, Doubleday Field grandstand bleachers, other spectator and player areas, Doubleday Field parking lot and sidewalks, and Fowler Way. Main, and then it must be a comma, Main Street and.
It's a semicolon.
A semicolon, okay. Main Street and adjacent sidewalks between Fair Street and Pine Boulevard. So that's it. The only thing, I wonder if it just would be simpler to say, I understand what you're saying. He's, so our parking lot, Doubleday Field parking lot is not there, but he's gone ahead, you've listed all of them, but you didn't mention our new third base building. So I'm just wondering if Doubleday
Well,
Field you know what I'm saying? That's not mentioned there specifically, and yet we mentioned
But
the things.
it was where it said adjacent, but I respect what Joe's saying, what's adjacent?
well, and it's also and other.
On this one.
No, I
But
know,
it-
not
we
on.
also, sorry, go ahead. I was gonna say we capture that with other spectator and player areas. That's the third baseline. If we want to say so more specifically, we can. we have a name now for.
Yeah, but we could
We
name
can
it
name it,
Fowler Pavilion. I see, I would be happier putting that in there.
sure, but help me out for just a technical question. I know Fowler Way, but the village has another parking lot that's right next to Vinnie Russo's parking lot, is that, or am I wrong?
Yeah, Fowler Lot.
That's Fowler Lot. Okay, so I missed that. That's another one that,
I was just gonna mention, I don't think that we have the legal authority to ban smoking on Fowler Way, because it's on Hall of Fame property. It's not village property.
Part of it's on, yeah, not the whole thing is on.
And the majority of it though is, the whole village property. Would it be easier to just say, village property within the business district at this point?
Yes,
So that's a
I was thinking the same
major
thing.
expansion though, because
By
the business
trying to
district
make it-
includes a portion of Pioneer Street as well going. north
Would that
and
be a
south.
bad thing?
I mean,
It also
I,
includes a price check. Okay. Is that village property? The sidewalk would be, gotcha. There isn't a sidewalk currently. but we hope so.
Getting too wide here. Getting too wide
I
here.
think we're gonna add, and I.
Say we're gonna advance on every public sidewalk in the village, I mean.
But I think if you put in, I think what Hannah just said, maybe, actually, why not just village owned property within this district or within the village.
so as Mac was saying, that
And
can get to be
so-
draconian,
Okay.
That would-
I,
This is good, scope is getting wider and wider and wider here, and, you know, I mean,
we have a really identifiable concern about private sidewalks, narrow passage, collecting areas where people are collecting and then we have, so that's real for the public health and safety of everybody, but then we have this perimeter question, so everybody goes and congregates in the parking lot, so we're trying to prevent them from being neighbors too. I don't know, I'm willing to work with the scope that we've got here with the amendments, but if I'm gonna, you know, that would mean all the way up Main
Yeah,
Street.
no,
Bruce
Sydney just
Hall,
brought
and
up a
all that
really,
stuff.
well, that's technically commercial, and as someone who has a business up there, I despise when people stand in front of my business and smoke, because it just flows right in.
Yeah.
But as Sydney brought up, that would rule out
I
the
think-
bars on Pioneer
yeah,
Street,
that-
and that's a whole.
That would be a
bigger
big.
thing.
and the business district also encompasses all of the buildings, and we're talking about, you know, you've got, you know, staff, late night staff who are outside, not necessarily on the sidewalk in front of a business, but maybe behind it, maybe in the kitchen, and it's just the nature and reality of the circumstances. You know, I've met a lot of people working in kitchens, a lot of them smoke, and, you know, handing out tickets to people who are behind their place of work. You know, I mean, we're trying to protect the public health here, not control people's
I
lives too.
retract my statement, I only said it because we were like listing
Oh,
so many
the
businesses.
thoroughness is
Yeah.
excellent, it's important.
Wait, okay.
I'm finished.
Richard?
I have a recommendation. I recommend that we, A, right now, approve this, and B, go back immediately and start to rework it, and then present it again, rather than withdrawing this. That way, we at least have something down on the books right now. And we can take our leisure to refine it.
And would we legally notice it again?
Then we have to legally.
When you do the amendments.
Yeah, well, then,
How much, may I ask just one question, how much, Martin, do you think we can sweep up of the amendments I proposed without renoticing?
The rule is that you know, you put people on notice with the notice as to what you're adopting. If you shrink it you make it less restrictive, courts don't have a problem with that. They say if someone would have had a problem with something, you know, more restrictive, they would have been here. But if you expand it, that people wouldn't have the notice that they couldn't do it, and they may have come to complain. Maybe someone was sitting here looking at the bleachers on third baseline saying, You know, if they don't say that, maybe I'll go there. I'm just saying, so it's when you expand it, and it's a hard question.
So let me address the two points you made. With regard to the pavilion, that's a spectator and player area. That's already in the law. People are notified about that. So I think we can prohibit smoking in the third base grandstand just by virtue of that.
I agree, it's not an
That
expansion.
addendum there. And as to the one I found sort of most substantive for me was the sidewalk and street issue. We had it as adjacent public property on Main Street, which is only our street. So I think that's clarifying as opposed to expansive, and I'd be willing to take the chance that we are compliant with our notice requirements in adopting that. And then if, to Richard's point, if we kind of cobble together, that is the amendment to the law, and we want to run with it for a while and see if we need to do anything about the Fowler lot or whatever, that's a different kettle of fish.
I agree with you.
Well, I made a motion to approve it as it stands.
But are we considering whether or
Oh,
not
well,
to
we can-
move forward?
I'll
with
make a
just-
friendly amendment, I'll offer a friendly amendment. Oh, what's the protocol? We have to second or?
No, you can offer, you can request me to change it, I'll change it. What your request.
Friendly amendment, I'll leave Martin to recapitulate for me, but it was to adopt the amendment, that portion of the amendment that refers to where it's the main, so that the sidewalks and adjacent public property on Main Street and adjacent walkways between Fair and Pine Boulevard be amended to read that we strike in the current law sidewalks and adjacent public property on, and substitute Main Street and adjacent sidewalks between Fair Street and Pine Boulevard.
But you wanted to include streets. But you wanted to include streets so people would step into the street.
It does include that by saying Main Street.
By Main.
and-
Oh,
So
okay,
I say Main Street and adjacent sidewalks.
okay.
So my question is, does that then exclude the grassy strip?
The tree line?
The tree line,
Oh, draggy, what did you call it?
grassy strip.
Oh, grassy, you said draggy. It was a draggy.
Well,
Well, you're still saying adjacent.
so you had,
Okay.
so are you saying that adjacent public property was a rain gardens and tree line?
Yeah, that would be covered.
I'm gonna say.
Let me say this, you know, I think we're getting,
I-
my guess is the judges commit, if someone's smoking on the grassy strip and they can't be smoked anywhere else, I can't believe commonsensically, and I always call justice court common sense. They're not gonna find them liable there, and no one's gonna spend the $12,000 to go to the appellate division on that. So I don't have a
Or you
problem.
could do belt and suspenders and say Main Street sidewalks and adjacent public property.
Okay, Jeff, I'm gonna say again, if we wanna keep debating it, let's pass what we have and go back again. But either pass something, but pass something now.
Right, I'm not opposed to passing something. I think as much as we can capture under this notice, we should do, because then we may not need anything else, right?
Can I add something? With the law as it's written now, because Cindy is suggesting that adjacent public property is relating to these grassy lawn areas. So as it reads now, it is prohibited on sidewalks and adjacent public property on Main Street, which includes the street. It's not along Main Street, it's on Main Street, between Fair Street and Pine Boulevard. So theoretically, if you're getting into the weeds of how the law is written, you can argue that it is saying it's not allowed on the street, it's not allowed on adjacent property, and it's not allowed on the sidewalk, right?
Fabulous.
Right, but there is a
Cindy, we
notion
start with the
in
weed,
law
that's the
that-
problem.
It's maybe void, or it's not void for Vegas, it's too vague. The street is a clearly identifiable public property that you can specify. And for some reason, we didn't specify.
Okay.
So That would be good. I mean, this stuff is ages on the other thing after that. But it's important to get language. precise.
Can I be clear on one thing? So if we approve this and then people feel, I want to tweak it a bit more, it can be amended
It
with
can
a
be
public,
amended. It's
with a
just-
public hearing next month.
Yep, or the month after, or 6
Yeah.
months from now.
I feel like we've invested a lot of time in this. Is there any tweaks to that second area that you want? Do we make any tweaks? Okay. Or are we happy with it and then going forward?
I don't know
Let's
what
pass it
we're
and take
talking
another vote.
I think what she's saying, do we just pass it as we have it, and see what happens?
And
My recommendations would be.
Okay, isn't that what I said?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
But Joe had an amendment, I think, maybe you want to just call for a vote on Joe's amendment.
Richard's making the motion,
I'm
right?
gonna make the motion exactly as it reads here. I move.
With the
With the-
changes.
Oh, with the changes to eliminate the words including without limitation, cigarettes,
Yeah.
cigars, joint bonds, and pipes, and semicolon.
Yes, all right, with that change, Richard has made that motion, we're striking that language, that last phrase from the first section, is there a second? Sydney, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Joe, one. All right, moving on, Double Day Advisory Committee, oh, we may end up in the weeds again. Yeah, let's move faster.
Yeah, let's not do that. Okay, so there were a couple of things this month that came up. One, Friends of Doubleday would like to revisit, I believe we last year agreed to give them one spot per week for running the bases, tours. So Jeff's gonna work on specifics for what day and time would work best for them. So I'll circle back to that one probably next month, but just putting that out there again. Friends of Doubleday would also like the village to formally, I don't know how to word this correctly, but request that the village trustees request funds of $10,000 donation from the Friends of Doubleday to go towards the Empire Room in the Fowler Pavilion.
We certainly can,
I mean,
as I said to Jeff, I think it's odd, we have, people donate benches, they donate money to our parks, and we don't ever say, we make a motion to have you donate. It's a peculiar way around this, I'm not quite sure
I think he
why.
just wanted something on the books to bring to his board. So.
It is really weird. isn't it?
Yeah,
It is weird.
So but just by talking about it here, and we all agree we would like $10,000.
Sure, okay, I make a motion that we request Friends of Doubleday to give us $10,000 for the.
I
invite.
don't like that motion,
Yeah.
the official request, it's like.
All right, fine.
Could we say that we would accept $10,000?
That's
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
that's right, that's
I like
the
that
wording I would like.
Yeah.
So the village board accepts,
Would accept it.
Well,
Well, just
accept.
that it would accept.
acknowledges it would accept a $10,000 donation for the Empire's Room in Fowler Pavilion from the Friends of
I
Doubleday.
second that.
Second by Richard, all in favor?
Alright,
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, and then I think the next thing that we need to discuss is the Atlantic League game. So unfortunately, I am not super prepared on this. Marcia sent me a bunch of stuff that she was able to dig up from
the Hawkeyes, for wording on that application. Unfortunately, I could not open it on my computer, so Jenna's gonna work on that for me this week, but maybe that's, I don't think we're in a serious time crunch. I know that Marcia's been in contact with them. We have the, yes, we're open to this, but we need to work out the logistics.
I would prefer that occur at the committee level. We did, as you know, last month approve the date, so they know they have that date. We've approved the amount, 2,000. I think, you know, this board doesn't need to get into, if you have trash, you need to pick it up, and sort of, that, the details would be in those contracts, so I'd love to see that occur at the Doubleday committee.
Happy to do that. My one question is, other than the $2,000, is there other things we're looking to cover, other funds we're looking to?
If there, for instance, the trash removal, if there's an expense associated with that, if they ask for additional police security, I think quite a few of them were in, it wasn't the Hawkeyes, it was another one, wasn't it? That Jeff had recommended and Marcia had told.
Yeah, so yeah, there were, what I just wanted to say, I quite agree that the committee could put it together, and I think with Jeff's leadership, it would be, he would be perfect for it, because the contracts and other documents that were in that zip file that he sent around, there were some great imaginative deal points that were favorable in terms of revenue, ticket sharing, ticket revenues. I mean, a lot of stuff has already been done through that you might not do as a novice to this. So I think that, you know, you and Jeff want to consolidate or select from the stuff from the past and create a menu of items to put into a contract. They all seem very good from my perspective.
Yeah.
But we just don't want to do the homework.
It was the 2008 International League, and obviously the board has not seen that contract, so I think it behooves us to have the Doubleday committee look at that, look at the Atlantic League, think how the two can kind of be merged so that the village is well protected for the rental of the field on that day.
And then I think the only other thing is, I wasn't here last month, unfortunately, but I just wanted to go on record and thank Frank Capoza. He submitted his letter of resignation from the Doubleday Field Committee. So thank him for his years of service and say that we have an open position. Frank Capoza.
You know, I do think we need to look back. All of our committees do have, some of them were actually set up with memberships. You know, number of members. I mean, obviously our zoning boards are 5 and 2 alternates, but some of our others were set up with some a certain number. And I know Doubleday right now with Frank gone has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It'd be good to just look at the kind of legislation for when that was created.
Yeah.
Just to confirm how many, you know, what the number is. We had 8 on there and we may have been up higher than it was originally. So I don't know, Jenna, kind of, I don't know if you can find or check with prior administrators to see if they can direct you to any of the Doubleday Field Advisory Committee formation. But thank you, yes. We will do that.
I think that's all from me.
All right. Motion to accept Doubleday Field Committee minutes.
So moved.
By Matt, second by Joe, all in favor. Streets Committee.
If you have questions about anything that's listed here, I'd be happy to answer them, but the one thing that I want to bring your attention to is that on Monday, November 14th at 8:30 a.m. at the intersection of Walnut and Susquehanna, we will be having a tree planting. It's a grant fund tree planting. The second graders from Cooperstown Central School will be doing this, but all of you are invited as well.
Is there, sort of coordination of, is it sort of an Arbor Day thing? Are we going to be talking about the history of tree planting or?
So there's a group of students from the Cooperstown graduate program who are putting together a program which is primarily geared towards second graders. There will be 60 of them, but certainly adults can listen as well.
Okay, so the CGP is doing a program. All right, anything else? Motion to accept the streets committee report?
Second.
So,
Well, you can take what she said as a motion.
I know, lots of my favorite. All right, so second by Richard. all in
Intonation was
favor.
different, but that was.
Community and environment minutes are attached.
I'll point out there's a big typo in the very last line of the first page. It says end, it should say need for year-round business, end of year-round business. Sort of late in the evening, as I would say.
Oh, yes, I thought that, yeah. It's done.
no village committee report, but is the elevator work?
It did for me, it's stuff.
It was having problems over the weekend, but they were here yesterday to make repairs. And Richard was able to successfully.
So you tested it out, Rich, what do you
I took
think?
a chance,
You're happy with the results?
yeah.
If you're happy, I'm happy.
Like I said, I think we need clear signage, and I'd like it to be professional.
Yeah, adding that to the list.
Fab.
Anything else for community environment? Motion to accept the minutes from
So-
the report. By Max, second by Sydney, all in favor.
Alright.
Moving into
Treasurer's report.
You have, thank you, you have in your package the LoSAP open statement for your review. We have completed the bank reconciliations for our accounts for the past month. We have also reviewed the invoices that accrued during the last period. You have the portfolio report with some added information that Cindy provided. So for the close of the season, and Cindy, you can correct me on this, all sources, including parking tickets, or are those yet to be achieved there? Not parking tickets. So we are at, my addition is $396,275, and we budgeted, I think, $425.
Yes, I thought it pushed us to just over 4, but somewhere right about 4.
So that's in the review. The sales tax report is sitting on, is supplied to us tonight, and month over month for August 21 to this past August, there's 57,000. This August, last August, 41,000, a difference of $15,792. So that's an excellent number for us, which is good. We have Edmund's government tech invoice that I need the payment of. It is for the services that Edmunds provides for processing all our accounts. That is essential for the work of our treasurer and the village. So the invoice is for January 1, 2023 through December 31, 2023, the calendar year, in the amount of $16,422.29. I move the approval of that.
motion made by Joe, second by.
It's 16,422.59, not 29 cents.
16,
Yeah, you said 29 cents, it says 59 cents.
mine says 29.
Yeah, the minutes, or the agenda says 29.
The invoice
And
says.
the invoice says 59.
Okay, let's see.
My bad.
Yeah, it is 59.
Oh, So that, again, I'll move the payment of $16,422.59.
Motion made, second by Sydney, all in favor.
We have Mitch recommending that we declare surplus 2 items of police department, 2017 Ford Explorer. I move that we approve making that surplus.
Second.
All in favor?
And at the sewer department, a recommendation that the Hawthorne sewer camera locator be declared surplus, and I move that occur.
Second by Cindy, favor?
So we have, the next two items have to do with health insurance renewal. And I was a little uncertain. The recommendation is that we approve both of these renewals, and I support that. One is the MVP health insurance, and the other is the Capital District Physicians Health Plan Medicare insurance renewal. And Ellen, I don't know if you have any further information to add on what's in our.
Right, so the top one, and they print it in like bright reds and greens and yellows to make it readable, so it's a little bit less clear. But you basically have there, this is the HRA plan for with MVP for our employees. The first column is, and this renews every year, and we've been sort of lucky in the last year, it did not go up, it actually went down a tiny bit, and that really was a matter of, during the pandemic, people weren't having elected procedures done, and probably not visiting their physicians as much. So the costs actually dropped a teeny bit, slightly unusual. Our renewal is the middle column for MVP Silver 8, which is very similar to our existing plan for our employees. It, you will note that if you look in the left column, we have 7 or 11 singles, 4 kind of sub and spouse, and 5 families under this plan. And it gives you the costs for those and the total. So last year we paid $322,417.92 for the HRA health insurance. This year it has gone up to $350,481.36. That's an 8.7% increase. It represents $28,063.44. But that is the best plan. And we again, and on top of this, don't forget, we fully fund the HRAs. We fund each individual for 39, I believe it is, and the and each family for 78. So there's very little out of pocket. We have excellent insurance. When we are thinking about our employees and remuneration and staff, we have excellent benefits. So there should be a motion to approve the MVP Silver 8 renewal in the amount of $350,481.36. Second by Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
We also provide for our retirees, we provide a retirement and Medicare Advantage insurance, etc. And that is the proposal that is next in the packet. At some point in this email correspondence, he mentions it. So at a rate of $286.30 per enrollee, which is a slight decrease. It's like a, I don't know, $16, $21 a month decrease in cost on that. But I move that we approve the PPO rate of $286.30 per enrollee per month for the Medicare Advantage plan.
I'm having a second for the
Okay.
discussion.
Yeah, did I say that wrong?
No, you said it exactly right, but does that really include a $750 copay for an inpatient procedure? I mean, that just seems like for a retiree, a potentially astronomical sum.
But this, don't forget, this is Medicare Advantage. If they're in and inpatient, that's when your Medicare would be picking up. Don't forget the Medicare Advantage is for people already on receiving
Right,
Medicare.
I get that, I was just concerned about how that would play out in the real world situation.
Well, so is the feeling that if it's a matter of paying all our retiree Medicare Advantage plan and paying $308 a month, or saving $21 per a month per member times, and I've forgotten how many exactly there are. I think there's, I don't know the list or anything, how many that is.
You said, so it's a $21 increase, is what you're saying?
Decrease for one, or it'd be 300.
I mean, if it's.
So if it's 308 though, and they're inpatient, they only pay $250, am I misunderstanding?
Well, so that's what I don't understand.
Because if they're gonna pay a little
from the
bit more a month to not have a massive copay, then that is where I would want us to go.
They don't pay any of this, this is what we
Oh,
pay.
yeah, sorry, I
So
apologize.
it's an additional like $262 per person per year, so it's not an insignificant amount of money. But I can't tell from the email in that first line, is this like a $100 increase? Is it a $750 increase? Because the figure for inpatient isn't included on that line. And I assume that that's what IP refers to, but I could have that one.
I couldn't figure it out.
You know what, Kevin, we were working with Kevin on this, and he had basically, he was waiting on, you could see that one, you know, I'm still waiting on an MVP quote. He found the MVP quote was through the roof. So he was considering that this one would be the better one. But we can approve this and confirm that, and if it is a 750 inpatient, and it's only $21 a month less per member, it does amount to several $1,000s a
It's
year,
absolutely
I'm just
correct.
pointing out. And we'd have to get more information on that, but let's go ahead and approve this, and if it turns out that that is what that stands for, and their Medicare would not cover that, remember,
Right.
everybody, when you retire, everybody gets the A.
Right.
It's Medicare A, so that would be it, so we can confirm these two plans with them, but we need to kind of approve it.
So can I make a motion to approve costs of up to $308 per enrollee per month, pending further clarification
Of
of
the
the details of the less expensive?
of the alternative quote
Yeah.
provided. All right,
I'll
motion
second
made,
that.
second by Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
We have some invoices that have been submitted. I'll give your consideration of them. First, Park Construction and Sons for the assault shed. Pay application number 2 in the amount of $71,915.95. I move the payment of that invoice.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Park Construction and Sons, assault shed, pay application number 3 in the amount of $53,753.38. I move the payment of that invoice.
Second by Cindy, all in favor?
Aye.
The Delaware Engineering, Doubleday Field invoice number 22-2432-6 in the amount of $4,688.67. I move the payment of that invoice.
Second by Hannah, all in favor?
Aye.
The Delaware Engineering, the Grove Street Culvert Project invoice number 19-636-19 in the amount of $2,502.50. I move the payment of that application.
Second by Sydney, all in favor?
And for Delaware Engineering wastewater treatment plant invoice number 19-1637-69 in the amount of $1,560. I move the payment of that invoice.
Motion made by Joe, second by Sydney, all in favor?
You also have the packets, the overtime analysis, I think analysis, we reviewed the time cards of the employees. And we need to approve the hiring of a full-time laborer. We have that information.
What are you gonna do?
New employee status change is, I move that we, hire Jake Diedrich for the streets position of laborer at the rate of $15 an hour. Second by Cindy, all in favor? And I move that we hire Eric Phillips for the sewer department with the title of wastewater treatment plant operator trainee at the pay rate of $20.105. Second by Cindy, all in favor?
Right. And I move the approval of the abstracts and transfers.
Second.
By Cindy, all in favor?
That concludes my.
Matt, second by Cindy, all in favor? We have some grants and projects update, well, semi-updates, we haven't gotten any new update on TEP. I think probably send a reminder to them to, close that out. Doubleday Field tomorrow, Jefferson will be there along with about 4 or 5 of our staff to walk through the shutdown on the third base building the first time. And Jefferson was obviously the contractor involved in all that, so he's written up a whole checklist and step by step. They're all going through it one time together and make sure we have not only the written record, but some institutional knowledge of how that is done. Grove Street culvert.
Progressing very slowly. You may recall the contractor was supposed to be finished in September, but work is still not done. So we are asking Delaware Engineering to remind them that they are supposed to be there.
Mitch had said that in their contract, the only thing they had to pay was the trench. And they actually do have Cooperstown coming to do that this week. And just so people are aware, we are not doing any paving of that road, or we're kind of cut around onto Main, because we want it to really settle before through the winter, and it is on the schedule to be paved first thing. In case anyone asks that, we will have that information for that.
So yeah, I just had a question or an observation. When I went and looked at the progress, it's a pretty amazing structure for this little creek. But I noticed facing upstream from the road, the right-hand bank seems awfully steep and unprotected. It's armored with some stonework just slightly upstream, but beyond that, it's almost a vertical dirt bank, and I don't know what will happen to it if there's ever the kind of freshet that this thing is designed to accommodate.
Certainly. I mean, we run into issues because it moves onto private property on either side of the roadway. So we can certainly look at it and alert the property owners that they need to be attentive.
That could be their responsibility.
That's my
Did
understanding.
we cut into the bank? Because it is steeper. Did we do that in this project?
No, I don't think, it doesn't look like we cut into the bank, but we defoliated it. So there were massive
yes.
trees with root systems that were knitting all of that together. They're all gone. So it's a bare slope that's almost vertical.
Anything else on Grove Street? Skylight project, I know that everything's been submitted. For reimbursement.
Yes, but unfortunately, we missed the fact that there was a signage requirement on the Skylight project, so we had ordered the required sign.
Mhm.
And we can't get reimbursement until the sign has been posted.
What type of signs?
A sign that says that the project was paid for by New York State Parks, Recreation and Historic Preservation.
And I think we've all christened the new elevator. It's very exciting. Congratulations, Richard, for a successful
I
run.
was thinking I'm gonna have to call you guys. to get-
I was gonna say, Cindy got trapped, it stopped the other day, but we're glad you were successful. Anything else on
I should say I got trapped before the inspection, so
Well,
that should not be a standard.
Yeah, that's very important.
it was going down, probably twice the fast.
Is it still as slow as molasses in January or?
Yeah, it's slow.
I think it's a little faster though.
Slow and steady.
I don't care as long as it gets me
Slow
there,
and
Joe.
steady.
Right.
Yep.
And it has a beautiful floor that Mitch installed for us, because it didn't come with flooring.
It didn't come, if you can stand it, it didn't come with the flooring, it was plywood, and so to make it anywhere attractive, we had to supply the flooring.
It's
That's
so
what I was
soft.
reading. Who would think
This was.
100,000 just doesn't get you what it used to. Salt shed.
If you haven't been down Linden Avenue,
I
take a drive down Linden Avenue, you can see work on our salt shed. You should know, because people may ask, that the intention is not to store salt in it this winter, but rather to let the concrete cure for a season. So we will be attempting to use up every little bit of salt we have in the county salt shed, so we can start from scratch next year.
And there's really nothing to report on the wastewater treatment plant. Basically the funding, as you know, we've gone to EFC to get an extension on our ultimate bonding with them, and there's been no real movement since last month. Board reports, parks.
Okay, so the minutes are in the packet. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. There's really two things that I wanted to bring up. The first is just like a quick clarification. The Friends of the Parks wanted to know if it would be essentially okay for them to bring signage to their events that displays a QR code, so someone can scan it and donate to the Friends of the Parks. They just wanted me to clarify.
What are their events? Are they planning to put it at the village skating rink? or-
So the skating rink is one option. That wouldn't be an event. That would be like it's there
Yeah.
indefinitely. What they're more talking about is like the early bird swim. Sometimes they have people come out for like the rink rollout and the rink roll up, and just like being able to have.
I think that certainly the early bird swim and some of their activities where they're rolling out and rolling up. I think if it's there, it looks like almost the village is charging a fee or something, or that it's 100% supported by the Friends, the Badger Ring.
Mhm.
And I do know, and I'm a great supporter of the Friends of the Parks, that they have asked, and we've begun to give them information on personnel costs and park costs, 3 Mile and Berry Spring, and for the ring. Because obviously, village residents are paying for these facilities, and Town of Otsego uses 3 Mile free, and Town of Middlefield utilizes Berry Spring free. And we can't quite find when this precedent was established. 3 Mile is our oldest park. It was created in 1899. Did it occur then? Who knows, but we haven't been able to find anything, and certainly we're under, no. But anyway, the Friends are taking a kind of proactive approach on this. They're taking the amount these parks cost. They know that, as someone said, look, I'm not a village resident, I'm a Town of Otsego resident. I feel Town of Otsego should be supporting these parks. I use them. So they're going to advocate, the Friends of the Parks are, for support from the two townships. in support of the parks and the use of the skating rink.
Yeah, so I did know about that. I also have insider information.
There's something up new on that?
No, it's not new, but I mean, it has been floated amongst the town of Otsego board multiple times, and I think it's pretty clear that that the town board is not interested in participating in helping fund the parks. So.
But they are interested in still using it.
Yep,
Of course.
yeah,
We'll have to discuss.
Can I just
that
say
can be
one-
a further, that can be proud of that.
No, and that is
So.
totally their prerogative, and within the scope of this board would be, do we continue to allow that? I will tell you that when we had that one couple days when the HAB testing indicated we had to close 3 Mile, I received 2 phone calls from town of Otsego residents, and they said, well, if we can't use 3 Mile, can we go use town of Middlefield free? Can we use Berry Spring free? Which there's a certain degree of hubris in that, I will say.
I do think that we should also consider not limiting town of Otsego and town of Middlefield residents access to parks.
That would certainly be a
I think that
discussion.
it would be in my opinion, it would be a type of gatekeeping from the app, you know, like I just feel like it would be, there would be a limitation. But
Certainly
that's
something to discuss it.
right, so the thing that I brought up was for this QR code, back to the fundraising of the Friends of the Parks. I suggested that they try, if this is sort of an okay thing to do when they have events and they bring a sign that asks for, you know, donations, that they bring it to events that are just a single day, gather whether or not this is a successful means of actually making money. And then if it is, then we can revisit a more permanent thing, maybe at a rink or maybe somewhere else.
Sydney, I gotta tell you,
Yeah.
I have absolutely no issue with Friends of the Parks having a fundraising QR code with a
Yeah.
permanent placement.
Me
I
too.
feel like everybody's aware how, you know, how hard the village of Cooperstown works to support its parks and
Mhm.
the tax dollars and time and effort that goes into it. But the Friends of the Parks do a lot of good. And I think that I really don't see any issue in having a way for
Yes.
people to donate.
And they have said that
electronically.
as, you know, they see a lot of, like, tourists might come in to use the parks, and they have witnessed someone asking, is there a way to donate? I don't have cash on me, I'd love to help.
You know, it'd be a perfect place was they, along with the Lions and the village, and we did the foundation for the little pavilion there, is to, are you enjoying this park?
Mhm.
Consider a donation, a tax deductible, because that's the beauty,
Yeah.
for someone donating to the Friends of the Parks, it's a tax deductible.
But having the QR code is important though, because that's just the future, it's our president, actually, I should say.
Well, as long as you brought up that comment, I'll bring up the comment that I made several times in the past to various board members and friends of the park. 5 years, I have tried to get a proper IRS letter stating this is our ID number, this is tax. And I can get a lovely little handwritten card, but that doesn't help when I get audited. And I have been audited. So they need to acknowledge their donations properly and completely. And just sending thank you for your donation isn't acknowledging it.
An online system that would actually make that much
Easier.
easier
Yeah.
to achieve.
But it should be able to be achievable when they get a check.
An online system makes recognizing gifts easier to achieve than a formal.
If I can ask a question about the QR, my instant thought was someone will just take out his pocket knife and cut it up. Well, what will it look like? How it'll be mounted somewhere? It'll be impervious
So,
to tampering?
Because we haven't discussed a permanent option, that we don't have an idea, right?
Who
Because
pulls
the-
out a knife and cuts up the QR?
I mean, yeah, that would be
Kids.
really, but yeah, no, it's not crazy. It's also not crazy if it was a material that was like even just cardboard or something like that, like animals are around and they do like to mess with things. I would envision it as being something pretty reliable, like a metal plaque or something of that sort.
That you can even have, at coffee shop, have almost like a plastic laminate
Yeah.
one, you know, that can roll up, but that has it in there, you just have to give them
Right.
the QR code.
So perhaps what I should do is go back to the Friends of the Parks and let them know that at their events, they can bring whatever signage, which is not gonna be permanent, so however they decide to make that sign, they do it. And then at our next meeting, we talk more seriously about what a permanent sign would look like, come up with the ideas, lay it out, and then bring it back.
And get some experience with
And
fundraising.
yep,
from-
exactly,
from
yeah, gather some
temporary
data on whether or not this is
ones.
actually.
Do we have QR codes anywhere on our parking system that people pick up? Okay.
No. And the second one, the second point that I wanted to bring up was, so I had a meeting with Bill Ralston and Mitch about the rink. So the Friends of the Parks bought a new rink liner because we had two, they had two, both of them were ripped up, and using them like that, it wasn't feasible. So they bought a new liner, but they have asked us, and then we discussed it in our meeting, to consider providing a caretaker for the rink, not someone who watches over the rink while people are using it, because I know that impedes on insurance a little bit, but having someone whose main responsibility is taking care of the rink. But then, if that is not feasible, like if the weather isn't, if it's not cold enough for the rink to be accessible, then that person would then join Mitch and the crew to do whatever tasks are at hand. Mitch is, from what I understand, fully supportive of that. He said there's many projects that they have to do over the winter anyway, and he could always use an extra pair of hands. So the suggestion was to propose hiring a full-time seasonal village laborer whose primary responsibility would be to maintain the ice skating rink at Badger Park, and secondary responsibilities would be to sort of fill in the gaps.
So this is not a skate guard.
No, this is someone who's gonna come in.
Like a maintenance person.
And it's a maintenance person, it's just maintenance, and perhaps their job is also to, go into the skate shack and make sure that everything is in working order there as well, make sure that the rink is accessible and usable, and when the weather is not permitting, because we have had some warmer winters, they would continue on to do that village.
So when you discussed it with Mitch, what was the seasonal period? How many months?
It was 4 months.
4 months.
And so the thought would be, because in the budget for the Parks Board, we have $5,000 set aside for rink maintenance, right?
I thought it was it 5? It could be.
It might be 5, it might be less than that, but I thought it was 5. It might be 4. So we could put those funds towards this position, but then it would have to be supplemented. Because I think Mitch said he would assume that it was about $10,000 for that time.
And we're saying 40 hours a week, full-time for 4
Yep.
months?
Yep.
Okay.
What would be key though, and when, you can freely discuss this with Mitch, the job description, because what is known is that there's 2 prime times to be watering that rink, late at night
Right,
and very early in the morning.
yeah,
And, if he's doing a 7 to 3 work time, his hours may have to be different, so on.
yeah, and Mitch mentioned that, he said that it would be honestly beneficial to have someone coming in even earlier than that, work, like water the rink early in the morning.
How early are we talking?
6.
About 6.
6?
It might be earlier.
I
Maybe
just-
earlier.
I'm throwing this out here because getting up at 6 in the morning to go maintain the ice rink for $15 an hour is when you can go whip coffees at Starbucks for $22 an hour is crazy to me.
We believe we interviewed a young man who would be interested in this
I was
position.
gonna say, you might find someone who's a good look, and it would be, if you start that early, and end
That-
by.
You end very.
That's a
One
great, you
o'clock.
know, it's a good work ethic, some people will do it,
Yeah.
I just, you know,
And I mean,
if that falls through, which given the job description, totally possible. I'm just saying, you know.
It's $4,000.
$4,000, okay.
wouldn't
And
do it
so
for a penny under 18.
in the position description that we're thinking of for this full-time seasonal labor, it would be made very clear what the stipulations of the position are, so they wouldn't be coming into it being sort of side, like they would know that the primary
they wouldn't
duties,
be
rent
blindsided, is
care,
what you're trying to say.
meaning, yeah, exactly, so they would understand, and
And there's an interested applicant, you said, so they're sure that there's an interested
When
applicant.
we interviewed for laborers for the streets position, we interviewed multiple candidates, and there's one for whom this position may work. I mean, we can't offer it until it's approved.
Right.
Of course,
And you did a good job description.
yes,
Task
Yeah.
force.
You know,
Yeah.
there's people skills.
so.
And so, Mitch said December 1st to March 1st. Because by March, yeah.
Has that been pretty consistent?
Yeah.
Skating's done in March, really? Cause I can hear from my house and it seems a little bit early.
So that's 3 months.
That's great.
It's, not that there's a total fog, but there's enough of the fog that you can't maintain the ice.
Yeah.
You know, I might have something on that parks or the ice rink back when they did pink rink meetings and all that. So I'll send that as maybe a template.
So what would the next steps be? Should I make a motion to create this position and like, or should we go back to the board?
I really do think, I mean, this is another addition, and you know, we've had a couple additions to our budget already this year. I do think it would need to go to finance. We certainly would have time. I think we'll probably approve something, so I think you can go ahead and work up the job description and get some, but we can certainly hopefully by, you know, next month when we wanna hire, be able to figure out how we're fiscally paying for it.
What if
Where we're
you,
shifting funds.
I know I was there, but I can't remember why we decided full-time over part-time. If the funds
I think because Mitch
had the-
genuinely needs
Okay.
extra. help.
Is there room in his budget to cover the rest of it?
I don't think.
And
He
the ring
said,
will need, sorry,
he said probably not, but he could figure it out. And if they're making ice, they come in at 4 AM.
so you're telling me, I know, I gotta hear it one more time though. That there's someone willing to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go,
Different strokes for different folks.
So my dad does it every day.
I know, well,
Alright.
hopefully for a wage deserving of that kind of job, which
My
15
only
is.
concern is that if we don't do this now and we wait till the end of November, the individual who expressed an interest
My,
will probably find something else.
So make a motion.
But we don't have a name, so what I'm saying is we will work up the details. You'll go ahead with the job description, probably interview. We just have to figure out how we're paying for it, and then we approve it in November.
But if we can't hire somebody till November, I don't know that this person will.
So you're asking us to approve a hire of someone we don't have an employee status change from?
No,
What
I'm
is it?
asking to approve a position, not the hire, but so that we can talk to the individual about a position.
Oh, okay,
A job description.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll approve it.
So, an
That's
open
what I would
position.
say, I would say.
Is there an alternative to that, to have the Public Works Department just declare that this is now on their job list, and somebody will be assigned to do that,
To
part of
do,
their duties? I mean, if we have to fill, I think you said Mitch says we need more employees. Or at least a part of an
he
employee.
can
to fill out the
definitely,
schedule.
there's plenty of work to be done that he could use another employee for.
Right, so with the people we have now on staff and the people we plan to hire, can we just add to the task that has to be done so that the foreman says, somebody has to be here at 4 o'clock to do this? We're getting that work covered.
You're suggesting assigning it to someone who's already employed by us.
Well, it's a task that has to be done. The streets have to be plowed, and now we're saying we're we're gonna tend to the ice
Yeah,
cream.
we can kill two birds with one stone by creating a position.
Okay, all right, you know, we've gotten into the weeds so much on things tonight. We have in the past, Joe, because we have a park superintendent. And the park superintendent at one time would come in at 4:30 in the morning to put water on the ice. But the bottom line is, if it is a heavy snowstorm, his first priority is to be driving a plow truck. So it was never a concentrated thing, which is why we put 4,000 in there to try and have someone just focus, even if it's a part-time or focus solely on the green. So we do have some funds, we can make this work, so you made the motion to create a position, a part-time position from
What's that?
December 1st to March 1st.
Full-time seasonal, full-time seasonal.
Full-size seasonal from December 1st to March 1st. Yeah,
So I second that.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
I think it's important, since it's gonna be more parks and streets, that parks handle
Oh, yeah, I
and
agree,
bring the personnel.
I agree.
So we do work with Mitch on it.
absolutely.
Motion to
I have one other just point of clarification. The rink rollout is scheduled for the same time as the fire department Christmas party. I don't know if that will create many conflicts, but
Okay,
it's the same day,
okay,
at the same time.
I will tell that to the Friends of Parks, they're probably unaware of that, so perhaps they would wanna change it so that they can have all hands on that.
If they want anyone from the fire department to
Yeah.
participate, it will be
Yes.
difficult
Yeah.
to do that during their Christmas party.
All right, motion to accept the parks report,
So moved.
second by Sydney, all in favor.
Aye.
You have water and sewer board?
Yes, I'd like you to look at the water and sewer board in tandem with the watershed supervisory committee report. Both of them feature discussions of the algae bloom bacterial event in the lake. There's a good discussion of it in the watershed supervisory committee. We talked about it too at the water and sewer board, and raised the issue of testing at our treatment plant as opposed to just elsewhere. We wanted to see what happens to our the water that we're processing. And the biological field station is prepared to do that, but of course, they're not authoritative, and that could create issues for us, but they would be at least a distant early warning of something that would need to be dealt with. On the other hand, we can decide to formally enlist a testing protocol and get.
We sort of did in talking to Tommy. Yeah, it was felt that having a New York certified lab would be the best way to go. Mitch did find such a facility, and we will be providing a sample to sort of test it now, and then it would be also could be utilized next summer as well.
Okay. Very good, and that is all, I think it's pretty good.
I think you're right. I think the watershed supervisory committee did sort of a really good yeoman's job. They really dug into the weeds of the water quality coordinating committee, which sounds like a socialist organization. It essentially had 15 organizations, everyone from the Otsego County Sheriff, Soil and Water, to anybody and anybody. And, you know, the problem is, if you looked at the goals or the reasons for each of those individual organizations that are listed on a list, they're disparate. And so none of them really have the lake as one focal point. And so I have suggested to the Watershed Supervisory Committee, and they're moving forward to sort of coordinate and working with the Biological Field Station and the Otsego Lake Association. And so those three groups, you know, then you've got a group that's focused more on Otsego County and not worried about marine laws like the Sheriff's Department or soil erosion. You know, it's much more focused. And they are trying to set up a meeting with DEC to look at establishing what's called a 9E plan. And we're just getting a webinar on that to sort of move forward on that. They are, I should say. Motion to accept the water and sewer board report?
So moved.
Yeah, second, Joe, all in favor?
Aye.
It's this summer. Christmas here. Request from the village historian, Sarah Walker, has made a request to Doreen Dina Troy to provide a cost estimate for designing the signage. I guess if we can just approve a motion, because we do have, at this point, they're only getting an estimate for the signage, but we did allot funds in this budget for signage. So, is there a motion? By Cindy, second by Sydney, all in favor?
Aye.
Next week, next month, we have breakfast with the board, and again, that would be November 28th, because and our board meeting will be on Monday, November 28th, at 6:30. If there's nothing else.
Do we want to talk about December and dates?
Yeah, Jenna, we could talk about December now, because we probably would move, that meeting, rather than meet on the 26th, December 26th, we often move it back. So we'd be looking at December 19th. And so can you check with like the treasurers and all and make sure that, and for you as well,
Yeah, because we're not
that,
even in the office the 26th.
I'm sorry?
I don't think we're in the office the
The
26th.
19th is the first day of Hanukkah.
26th, the office is.
It's not that,
It's not so-
that an important
Okay,
holiday.
I didn't know, I just,
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for pointing it
Yes.
out.
being aware.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Try my best.
pointing it
We'll
out.
bring some doubts for everyone.
We'll light the candles before
So,
they come here.
Jenna, I think if we could have finance maybe on Thursday before, and that allows you to do the packet, and we have our meeting on the 19th, the week prior to Christmas. How's that? Oh, we're in the midst of Hanukkah 7 days.
Making sure that all the cases are okay.
So, motion, we are ready to adjourn, 8:55, not terrible.
Not terrible, but
Later.
Very well worked.
Actually very good for you.
We accomplished a lot. I appreciate it.
Hey, Joe, I got.
Hey, Fred.
Fred.